It's time to put your health in your own hands. Get ready to learn from today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest, Pat Price. Pat has been in insurance since 1977, and most of her clients have been with her nearly as long. Pat knows supplemental policies are protection, no less important than buckling your seatbelt. Yet many people just don't understand these policies. While on the initial team that sold critical care policies in this country, she discovered how likely it is to become ill and run through your savings for lack of an inexpensive policy. Her devotion to clients comes from her own experience because she became responsible for her toddler brother and her teenage self when her mother died. Lack of coverage left them vulnerable and took away many opportunities. Pat began her career with a chance reading of Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. A personal inner voice said this direction would help her support her two young children. She has since supported countless others during extended illness, accidents, and death. Pat's conversations can lead to choices that protect lives during their most vulnerable, frightening times. Today, I'm happy to share our conversation with you. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
I'm excited because it took us a little while to get to this point to have our conversation, but we're here today, and I'm excited because you have such a big message and a valuable message to share with everyone today. And everyone, when they hear the word insurance, often they're a little bit like, oh, insurance, I don't want to deal with it. But I know that's really important. And recently you actually told your personal story in a book called Journey to the Stage. So now you're a best-selling author. So congratulations.
Thank you.
For that. And it's really interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you actually became an insurance agent?
I was working at a job. I was a single mother with two young sons. And I was very shy. My voice cracked. I stuttered. And I had turned down the job originally. And then I picked up the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And I read it and said, this is a sign. This is what I need to do. And with that, I stuttered my way down the street selling policies door to door and became the top woman in the Western United States.
Whoa, that's phenomenal. And obviously something happened to that stutter.
Well, I still feel it sometimes.
I didn't hear anything, but wow, what confidence. So even though you were terrified, you stuttered, you decided, hey, I'm going to sell insurance because that means that I can create a better life for myself and my children. Is that right?
Yes. And it led us across the United States because I was writing $1 million quarters of life insurance. They made me the first woman executive in one of my carriers, the original carrier I started with. And I got into sales training, and it was just a really great time in my life. And from then, I started seeing the difference that I made in people's lives, how I saved people from bankruptcy or from the emotional strain that a critical illness or a catastrophic accident can happen.
So do you have any experience personally with using any of this insurance that you're now promoting?
Well, I used my own personal story that I had gone on a trip to Thailand and I was there like 7 hours. And I was getting on the tour bus when I noticed my grandson was getting on the opposite end. I walked toward him. And I fell off a curb, which doesn't sound like much, especially for somebody who's gone skydiving and scuba diving. I fell off a curb. I broke both of my shoulders. And with that, I spent 62 days in the hospital in Thailand, in the United States, 2 massive surgeries on my shoulders, and about 10 months where I was unable to really feed myself or bathe myself. And because I had accident coverage, I never touched my savings account. And I just bought a new home, so I had a big mortgage on top of it. So I was able to pay my mortgage. I paid for care to come in and take care of me because, again, I couldn't even dress myself. So I know the difference it makes. And because most of my clients have been with me for years, I've walked with them through critical illness that they may have had or even deaths of a loved one. And I know what purpose I have in life, and that's helping other people.
Wow. So I want to get a little bit into exactly what type of insurance and how it works. And obviously you're the expert here, but what is the insurance that you're talking about? I know that, there's all kinds of insurances that you can get. So what is the insurance that you're specifically working with people that can make such a dramatic life difference for them?
Most people have health insurance and they have a sticker shock of the cost of it, and they don't know about a little known insurance called supplemental or voluntary benefits. And what those benefits do, they pay money directly to the person. So if a person has a catastrophic accident like I did, and my out-of-pocket was $35,000 with home health care, it was able to cover that. We have other people that may have cancer. Again, the American Cancer Society says only 32% of your coverage is paid by your health insurance. What do you do? How do you make your house payments? How do you pay for that extra care that you possibly need? And then with stroke and heart attack, and I think strokes was pretty tough because being in therapy as long as I was, I would see people that 2, 3, 4 years in therapy from a stroke. How do you survive financially unless you have one of these little policies? And they only start at a few dollars a month. Unlike health insurance, which is very expensive, health insurance was meant to pay the doctor, the hospital. Supplemental insurance is meant to pay the policyholder.
The person.
Yes.
So for example, if obviously you have people who are employed with employers, and then you also have people who are self-employed. Do you work with both types of people?
Yes, I do. I'm not able to offer as many policies to the individual, but if I have an employer with 3 or more employees, I can offer a full range: accident, cancer, stroke, heart attack, disability insurance, and life insurance.
So how do you do that with employers? I mean, with all of the, it seems like today I am self-employed. So I've been out of the workplace maybe 10 years, almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. But I remember being employed, and I remember that people would come in and talk to us about different types of insurance. How does that help the employer? And that's kind of a good news situation because that means that you can help very small companies if they only have, like you said, 3 or 4 employees. So how does that work? Would you think that employees would think that what you offer under their employment would be a benefit?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first let me talk about the benefit to the employer.
Okay.
If I have a small employer, I can offer big corporation benefits. And the great thing about it is it's payroll deducted. It doesn't cost any hard dollar cost to the employer. So it's zero cost to the employer. The biggest challenge in today's market is how do you attract and retain employees? Quality employees, they want to feel that the employer cares more about them than just a paycheck. They want these benefits. If we come in and I'm allowed to do what's called a Section 125 pre-tax, I can save the employer 7.65, excuse me, on their Social Security portion of the payroll. It brings the employees, it keeps the employees there. They want the benefits.
Wow. I know I always was very interested in the benefits, and any time that you can protect yourself at a low cost, that's always really great. So for employees, how hard is it to get this insurance? And you said some of the policies start at a fairly low cost. So what types of insurance? I know you mentioned a broad range. What is the most popular insurance that most employees are looking at?
I would say there's two, the accident and the disability. And probably the third one would be life insurance. And then after they build up with this, they will start adding the other policies. Because what happens when you're working for an employer, you see the things that happen to your fellow employees. And the other good thing is because for me, I'm real hands-on. I think that's why I've been friends and had clients for 30, 40 years now, is that I keep them in compliance. So I watch everything that they do. Excuse me, under ACA, it was really important that the employer know the laws. They can't be an expert in everything, and that's where I come in.
Oh, so not only do you help them to provide this benefit that basically costs them nothing and it actually saves them money, you also help to keep them in compliance so that they don't have to focus on the insurance aspect. They can focus on running their business and provide this great benefit. That's right. A really good benefit to have you, who obviously studies all of this and has to keep up on all the latest things related to insurance, because I know it's overwhelming. Is the only word I can think of. Is it just seems like with the advent of computers, things have gotten more complicated instead of less complicated. So what would you think are some of the misconceptions about supplemental insurance and the types of insurance that you offer?
Well, I think most people don't think anything's going to happen to them. Or if they do, they think, oh, it's going to be short term. I'll be able to pay my bills. And that really isn't true. There was a recent survey that said 2% of people believe that they will never be disabled. Excuse me, there goes my voice. When actually 25% of us will be disabled for 3 months or longer. And 78% of people basically live paycheck to paycheck. So when a person gets to about $13,000 in medical benefits, that's when you start seeing the bankruptcies being filed. And you see the employees not going back to their employer because my employer didn't take care of me. These are really important aspects for the employer.
So the insurance can help retain the people, the employees, because they're providing a benefit. And then also it literally saves people from having to file bankruptcy due to medical bills or not being able to keep up with their mortgage and their food and everything. So do you work with different carriers of insurance providers?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm an independent agent and I work with different carriers because sometimes different carriers will meet a need for an employer where another one will not.
So basically, when you go in and talk to employers and employees, you're actually able to talk to them about meeting what they really need. Is that accurate, or do you just go in and find the best carrier for that particular employer and offer that, or do you have the menu open?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're fine.
It's called discovery. The first appointment is to talk to the employer, find out what are they offering, what is it they want to offer. In many cases, the employer is not aware of the benefits of having a supplemental insurance as a payroll deduction for their employees.
So would you say then that for most employers and you said with 3 or 4 employees, obviously that helps them. How do you work with a self-employed individual or an entrepreneur like me?
The solo entrepreneurs, it's one-on-one. We have a conversation, just like you and I are having a conversation at this point. and find out what their needs are and what carrier will provide for those needs.
So can you just give me just a couple questions that I might need to answer? I mean for example, for me, as an entrepreneur, I'm a solo entrepreneur, but I work with other people. And then I do have family members. So what types of insurance might be available for someone like me?
Usually a person starts off with the accident insurance because everybody has accidents, it seems. And we try to, depending upon the situation, the employer, being a solo entrepreneur, wants disability. You are your income. You are your business. What happens if you're unable to work? In some cases, a solo entrepreneur takes disability so they can pay somebody else to do their job when they're off. And other times it's for their own income that they need to provide for their own personal needs.
So are there, for example, if you got disability insurance or accident insurance or whatever it is, it's not like term insurance, can they cancel it on you? Do you have to have a medical exam? Are there different things? But I guess for an accident, obviously, I don't know that you'd have to have a medical exam. I just don't know.
No, there's no medical exams required at all. It's based on the verification that you give me, your personal word, when you answer in the application.
Oh, okay. So you fill out an application and it asks you probably all kinds of questions about, do you skydive?
That does that.
Well, I remember I remember somebody asking that, and I'm like, no. do you intend to skydive? And I'm like, no. But I can see, because most people, like you said, you literally stepped off a curb and broke both your shoulders. I would consider that a freak accident.
Yes, and it does happen. I was with a lady here 6 months ago, and I was telling my story, and she started laughing, and I thought, this isn't funny. Why are you laughing? And she said to me, I tripped over my grandson's hoverboard, and I broke both of my wrists. She said, I know what you're talking about. I couldn't work for 7 months. I had no income, borrowed money from family, used my savings up, maxed out my credit cards. And she said, I want to sign up for accident insurance, critical illness, whatever I can sign up for, because I don't want to lose everything I own.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Well, I know I actually, my dog tried to kill me by picking a can up and putting it on the stairs. And of course I stepped on it and slipped. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself more than, a bruised ego and a rear. But that could have been really serious, because I would have fallen, I slid down the stairs, but I could have went head over heels. It could have been totally different. But yeah, that is interesting, because people's toy, animals, you can trip over dogs, you can fall, my sister literally was walking on a sidewalk, and I guess the level changed and it tripped her, and she broke her nose. So I get that there are these accidental things. So when these policies kick in, how hard is it? That's what I always worry about is okay, so you buy this insurance. How hard is it to make your claim? Are they really good about making sure that it goes smoothly, or do they give you a lot of trouble to collect?
No, all the carriers that I work with, they're very easy. Usually you can file a claim online, or if you're not familiar with online, you can mail it in and you'll have a check within a week to 2 weeks, unless you put it down for direct deposit, which is very different. And you brought that up because I happen to have an accident policy when I was injured through my bank and through American Express. They do not pay until after the health insurance completes their payment. So on those policies, I didn't see any money for 12 to 15 months. And I realized that a person could go broke during that period of time. I'm fortunate that that I have savings, and I had other accident policies. I had several at the time. And so I try to protect my people. If they have a problem filling out a claim, I tell people, you can call me up to 8 o'clock at night and call me on the weekends. I'm available.
Well, I like that because you just brought something in my head is, I asked that question out of my natural curiosity of that. What are some questions that, people should be asking about these policies, especially, for example, when you said that, I go, oh, yeah, my bank, my credit union offered me some type of a insurance policy. And then, of course, they added on to my loans and stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, well, that'll probably just cover if something happens to me, it'll pay that loan off, but there probably wouldn't be anything additional. So what kinds of questions should you be asking anyone who's offering you insurance policies, especially supplemental?
Well, the first thing, like you mentioned, how do you pay the claims? What is the time frame? And the second one, which is very important, is does this pay on top of any other coverage that I have? Not all policies do. And when you get into accident, because they can start at $18, $20 a month, you may want to have 2 or 3 policies. Then I had 3 policies at the time I was injured, and they all paid on top of each other. And you want to know, is your agent there just to sell you a policy and leave, or is that agent going to be there to hold your hand in case something happens? Are they going to guide you through what needs to be done?
Wow. Well, I know right now I want you to be my supplemental insurance person, because that is something generally for me personally, and I probably represent a large segment of people. I'm a little bit afraid of, car salesmen, insurance people, and the IRS. I think that I'm probably pretty normal about because car salesmen, it's like, oh, are they going to try to sell me something that I can't afford or don't need, and I'm always real clear. I want an economical car. I drive a Prius, and that worked out for me. But I have been sold before, or been tried to be sold big honking cars that were not economical. That would mean, you either eat or you don't, because of that payment. The same thing with insurance is, it's like, well, gee, there's all of these policies. And of course, with life insurance, you have whole life, term life, all these things. And so in the scheme of all these insurances, the supplemental insurance, like you said, if I were to choose, like, 1, 2, 3, what should be the first insurance that I invest in?
I like to pair accident and disability together, but probably disability, because that will cover you for accidents or sickness. So that's going to cover a lot of things. And today, supplemental insurance has become like the new paradigm for retirement, because people have health insurance here and they have retirement here. But the U.S. Department of Labor has done an exhaustive research and found that you're 3 times more likely to become disabled before age 67 than you are to die. So this is the gaps that we're trying to fill and protect. Most of my clients will start with 1 policy or 2 policies, and as they're comfortable, because we never want them to pay for something they can't afford,
right,
they start adding policies on as they see the benefits of these policies, either by their own personal use or by a fellow person, a friend of theirs.
That's really good information, because, like you just said, many people, they might not be in a position to, buy a bunch of coverage, but that maybe they can start with 1 small one, and then as time goes on. It's interesting that you said that about age 67, because I'm 60, and, so I'm going like, but hopefully, everything will be fine. But I mean, I'm out there traveling. I have pets. I have children. I drive. I fly. So you do put yourself in different situations that could lead to some type of accident. So I really see how that could happen. So if somebody wants to connect with you and make either a discovery session or ask questions or just find out more about you, how can they do that?
Well, they can call me or email me. My phone number is 954-614-2900. Again, 954-614-2900. And my email is insurance spelled out at patprice.net.
That's easy, patprice.net.
Yes.
So you also have a website then?
Yes, benefitsbyprice.com. And on there for the employer, I have 10 ways to improve. Maybe I have to read it. 10 ways to improve your bottom line through the loyalty of your employees that cost you zero.
That is huge because, like you said, if I ever were to look for a job again, you can believe me that the benefits package would be probably what would be the most attractive part of it. And I do remember when I worked at the newspaper, people would be working at the newspaper and they would be doing like secretarial work, and it was obvious that they were brilliant. And I'd just say, why are you working at this job? And this one woman she's fabulous, wonderful mentor, she says, oh, I'm working for the benefits because, the wage was low, but the benefits was health insurance and whatever else that they had that she wanted. I think it really was the health insurance is why she was working. So I know that people are very interested in benefits. And I'm so glad that we talked because it's good to know that disability insurance and accident insurance and different types of insurance are available depending on whatever your needs are. That could make the difference between you being bankrupt or even surviving or eating if anything were to ever happen. And like you said, I'm sure that you didn't ever think that you would end up being in a hospital, number one, in a foreign country, and then coming home and not being able to even dress yourself or feed yourself for such a long time. And I'm really glad that you had the other insurance besides just your bank-related insurance. I think that was one of the most valuable lessons was when you said, oh, ask, when does this insurance pay? Does it pay me so I can survive this issue? Or do I have to wait when I'd probably be in deep financial trouble by, like you said, it was 12 and 15 months before you got that money?
Yes. And I tell people, when you have supplemental insurance, it's really better getting a check than a get well card.
Hey, yeah, show me the money. I definitely agree with that. So, Pat, is there anything else that you'd like to add that I may have forgotten to ask you?
I think we covered it quite extensively, actually.
Good.
But I hope people take it to heart and they realize the need for a policy like this or policies. And even we hadn't talked much about the cancer policy, but we know that 1 out of 2 men will have cancer, 1 out of 3 women, and that's a huge expense. So we can help people cover their deductibles or out of pockets and possibly their house payments, depending upon the amount of coverage that they take.
That's really good information. So basically, everyone, what you need to do is just set up an appointment, talk to Pat, tell her what you're looking for, what your concerns are, what your needs are, and then she can help you pick out the perfect policy. That's what I think I need to do, Pat. So after we get off this call, we're going to make an appointment.
Wonderful.
I'm serious that I'm listening to you. And again, I am not employed by an employer, but I am an entrepreneur, and I do need to be covered. And that's something sometimes I say, wow, how can someone so smart not have all the bases covered? And again, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that many of us are a little bit afraid of insurance.
Right.
So you're somebody that you're so trustworthy, and you have that longevity of being there for people. And I think that's so wonderful. So thank you so much, Pat, for joining me today.
Thank you, Tammy.
Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. To get more solid health and wellness information, visit optimalhealthradio.com.